Hey, welcome everybody to Introduction to AI. That's artificial intelligence for nonprofits. I'm so glad you're here. Lots of you said that you are not using it, so I know you're going to learn a lot in this webinar. I'm going to show you in the next slide how you can engage in this webinar. Someone's already asked me, are we muted? Yes, you are muted. So please type your questions in the Q&A. If you type them in the chat, we'll definitely try to grab those as well. But lots of people are going to be here today, so we prefer if you put them in the Q&A. We will send you the slides and the video replay probably later today or early tomorrow. And there's going to be a survey that's going to pop up in your window. It's just 2 questions. If you answered it, we would love to hear more insights about what topics you would like to hear from TAP Network. If you need the closed caption, go ahead and type on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Hey, I'm Aretha Symes. I'm the webinar producer here. I'm going to turn this over to the co-founder of TAP Network. His name is Kyle Barton. Kyle, take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Aretha. As she mentioned, just a quick background on myself, and I'm joined by John Hill, our web project manager here today at TAP Network. I'm one of the co-founders of TAP Network, mission-driven marketing and technology agency who's really leveraging AI and automation tools to help propel nonprofits into, to be able to compete with like the larger for-profit brands, to be able to compete on a capacity scale, but also without having to spend the money that they're typically used to in these large enterprise level engagements. I've got about 20 years experience in the marketing application development space, really focused on website development, design, user experience, and implementing different tools and technologies. I'm joined today by John Hill, and our team here, as I said, is the web project manager who manages a lot of our automation, our web, and our technology implementation here at TAP Network for thousands of nonprofits worldwide. Just as I said, a quick background on TAP Network. We are mission driven. We are empowering organizations for good. We work on a combination of technology, content, marketing, branding, and AI, which kind of runs the gamut and spans across all that. Heavily focused in the nonprofit and governmental space, looking at going outside of things like just driving revenue and business growth, but like how can we drive digital innovation for capacity building, for giving back and serving the communities that you organizations serve. Part of being as part of TAP, we are an agency that does a lot of the marketing for TechSoup. So we've done everything from implementing HubSpot, the automation tool that TechSoup uses to send you information like how to invite you to this webinar today and make sure you stay updated and engaged with everything that's happening at TechSoup, the different tools and services available to the front end of the website, and some of the design and user experience that you see there. At any point, pretty much anything consumer focused, we've touched or designed or integrated at some point in the TechSoup ecosystem worldwide. So across 200 different countries in I think 30 some different languages. Working with nonprofits all over the globe in line with TechSoup. We are also the exclusive provider of marketing, website, and AI services for TechSoup. So if you go to TechSoup's homepage, click on a little drop down that says services, and you'll see the different options there. The ones under website services, under digital marketing, and under AI would really all be TAP Network here, providing those services on their behalf. Quick agenda today. We've already talked about who we are. We're going to talk about what AI is, how it works, looking at putting an AI action plan into place, and then follow up with questions and answers. A good chunk of today's webinar is also going to be focused on giving some like real world examples of how we've used this or how AI can be used in the wild.
Cool. So let's start off with, what exactly is AI, or artificial intelligence? So think of it as a really smart computer program that can learn and make decisions on its own. It's like having a superpowered assistant that can do things like recognize patterns or understand languages or solve problems. So, beginning all the way in the 1950s, it's pretty much everywhere these days. Why should nonprofits care? AI can help with automating routine tasks to analyzing vast data sets, engaging with donor management. AI can drive a huge range of benefits to nonprofits. So on the next slide, we can see just how quickly the interest in AI happened once something like ChatGPT was released to the public. This graph shows how long it took for each service to reach 1 million users. Within 5 days, ChatGPT was over that, which is pretty wild. As we can see, Netflix took 3.5 years and then ChatGPT 5. So pretty fast. Up next, we've got a question for you guys, which you can write your answers in the chat. Who is utilizing AI to support their organizations today? We'd love to hear from you guys. I'm seeing yes. I'm also seeing a little bit. A good amount of no's and a lot of a little bit, but could be better. I think that's a lot of us. A little bit, not yet. I like that. Well, hopefully after this, you guys will have a little bit more knowledge on AI and how it all works. Cool. So let's go over how it works. So imagine AI is playing a game between two teams, the generator and the discriminator. The generator tries to create realistic stuff, and the discriminator checks if that's real or fake. They keep playing this against each other, getting better and better. Eventually, the generator becomes so good at creating the realistic stuff that the discriminator can't tell the difference. This is called an adversarial training, and that's how most AI models are trained today. But let's walk through this example to make it a little bit easier. So AI is given images of dogs, which the model is then trained on, which first told true or not by a person. So yes, that's a dog. No, that's not, as it creates these images. Then that game starts. So the generator and the discriminator then starts to decide, yes, this is a dog after it creates an image, or no, this is not. And with enough of a large enough data set, that is figured out over time. So on the next slide, I've got another question for you guys. Show of hands. Who here has used AI to prank or annoy their friends or family with AI, or just used it outside of the work environment? I see in all caps, no. I do see some regular yeses, some no's. No, but I've tried. Use it to develop songs. That's awesome. That's really cool. Not for pranking, but for info. Yep. Helped plan a vacation. Wow. It's a great way to use it. To write cover letters, also another great way to use it. A lot of people talk about writing letters. Yeah, totally. Research and tutorials. It's a great learning tool. All right, so ChatGPT is probably the AI service that most of us have heard of or tried. And as you can see here, we have had it try to write lyrics about tap and this webinar in the voice of Taylor Swift. As much as I'm sure Kyle would love for me to sing this for everyone, that is unfortunately behind a different paywall. But like I said earlier, something like ChatGPT is something that can help with, writing blog posts or social posts, grants, emails, and so much more. Up next, we can see that AI isn't just for writing content or creating images. AI is breaking more and more also into video as well. These clips were all created using AI. So as this continues to advance, there's a lot of opportunities for anyone to use AI in video marketing, making, let's say, quick social videos or campaigns. It's going to become more accessible to others to then help grow your nonprofits. It's pretty cool stuff. Up next, we do have one more question in the chat. What are you hoping AI can do to elevate your organization? We'd love to know what you are looking for out of AI. And while you guys are writing this, you will see on here that there is a survey. So like Aretha said at the very beginning, you guys are going to receive this slide deck after this webinar is over. We ask everyone to go and fill out this survey. It's super fast and easy. It's our AI benchmark survey. It helps us to know and understand what nonprofits are using AI for right now and where those technological needs are still lacking so we can create even better services for you guys. So let's see, grant writing, video, marketing, web design, yep. Organization promotion, brand awareness. 100%. A lot of marketing, which, yep, AI is a great tool for any sort of marketing. Analyzing data, absolutely. Writing long reports, I see a lot of marketing, a lot of grant writing. SEO, another great reason to use it. Product descriptions for web stores. Let's see. Minute taking, yeah, a lot of great things. All right, so now I'll hand it over to Kyle, who is going to run through putting AI into action, starting with an action plan.
Yeah, thanks, John. And it's probably to be expected, but interesting to see. You know, a lot of people are really using AI for content, or different types of content, whether that be design or writing or things like, you know, creating cover letters, um, running fundraising campaigns, or, you know, planning fundraising campaigns. But it's really, I mean, that's sort of like the typical use case that we see, but there's so much more to it than that, and it really can be used or touch on really all aspects or facets of business, or your personal life too. You know, like some of the examples that you would get from the past that is an AI thing would be using something like Siri or Alexa or, you know, Google Home, where it's learning you, it's learning your behavior, it's taking other people that are similar to you and figuring like, okay, well, you know, if Kyle's, you know, typically requesting tap or songs by Taylor Swift that talk about Tap Network, we know that he's probably really interested in this other stuff that Taylor Swift creates. And here's some artists that are like Taylor Swift, so they can make, you know, recommendations to us. And so that's another form of content, but it's also using those large models, to better position, you know, what I should be purchasing or what I should be listening to or what I might want to download, or even like the type of trips I'm going to take or where I want to travel to. So, you know, flipping that back over and thinking about how you can use that in your nonprofit, whether that's to provide services to your community, for different capacity purposes. It all starts with having a plan in place. So understanding what we call like the 6 pillars of AI. We're not going to go through every single one of these today, but just to think about how we approach this. The first is, and I think the most important, is just the culture and organizational foundation of this, and understanding like the impact it could have on your organization. How that, especially when you're creating things like content, being sure that the model you're using, is in line with, you know, with your, whether that's like diversity, commitments to diversity, or making sure that there's no bias in there, making sure that it's using the right terms and terminology and content, training it on you and your organization, but also understanding the impact it's going to have on your organization. So oftentimes people are concerned with, is AI going to take my job, or is it going to, you know, ruin my life or something like that. So thinking about that in the very beginning and making sure that you have a framework in place for your organization. Make sure you have things like an AI use policy at your organization. You know what the right version of it looks like. And then starting to plan the technology around that. So what technology you're currently using, as well as what technology is out there available to either replace that technology, augment that technology, or just be like a new tool that you're using. So we saw a lot of people comment things like using Otter.ai or using Perplexity. Those are probably things that are augmenting traditional like operating systems or technologies that you were using before, different tasks. But there's also things like that you might use in your day to day, like a marketing automation system like HubSpot that has AI built into it that can now, you know, replace some of the tasks, the more remedial things that you might have to do manually. So looking at that and coming up with a plan to use technology, or replace technology with something that is, you know, powered by AI or has an AI piece in it, or automation, or can just start to learn. Then we follow that up with content agility. So think about not just creating content, but now how can that content be used? How can that content be used in different places across different channels? We'll talk about some omni-channel marketing and that approach coming out of that. Utilizing those tools, for smart engagement. So that's the examples I was giving you about, you know, engaging with me specifically. So based on my, you know, Amazon purchase history and my listening on Amazon Music, or maybe the things I've watched on Amazon Prime TV, Amazon is now able to do smart engagement with me, but also with other people like me. So it can start to compare other people like Kyle that do these same things, listen to these same things, that buy these same things, are probably interested in these same things, so that they can use that for making recommendations. They can use that for making sure that they're sending me those recommendations at the right time of day when I'm more likely to actually engage with that, or the time of the year. They can do things like, hey, you might be running low on bottled water this week or something like that based on how frequently I order that. So thinking about how you can use that same idea, same methodology when you're engaging with donors and making sure that you're following up with them at the right cadence at the right time with that right message, that you're able to use, not just by manually looking at these things and doing like the typical, okay, they donated last year, they'll probably donate again this year, but really starting to figure out who they are and what their activities and engagement levels like it, so you can actually implement something in there that will cause some behavior change on their part. And then following this all up with data and analytics, so making sure that you're tracking everything that you're doing, measuring and tracking, and taking action based on that. Learning from that, taking if we say, hey, here's what we think our approach is, here's what we think we're gonna get donations from, or who we're gonna get them from, tracking that and seeing what the actual outcomes are, so that you can tweak that and kind of keep this sort of cycle going. So some steps to successfully implement that action plan. The first is defining, your budget and your objectives. Sure, we could sit here and tell you could use all these tools and they'll do all these things, and you'll never have to spend any time manually writing emails again. But it's important to think about, what your real budget, what your budget looks like. Obviously, some of this stuff can get expensive. There's certainly free tools out there. um, and there's also tools that, you can go spend, your whole year's salary or your whole year's budget on, and it might not yield any results. So understanding what your objectives are and budgeting for those. What we typically do is like an AI audit when we get started with organizations, and we help them explore and compare different solutions that are available to them, or that exist. So not just saying, okay, well, I've heard chat gpt, so I'm going to use chat gpt, but understanding like what's the difference between something like that and Claude or Perplexity, or other tools like, like I said, like things like Otter.ai or HubSpot's chat spot, and understanding that what you want to use that for. As we said, moving that through and making sure you're adopting those ethical AI standards. So making sure that you're keeping your information private and secure. I'll touch a little bit more on this later, but obviously one of the most important things, if you're storing donor data or personal data of any sort, or financial data, making sure that your organization, the people in your organization, understand those practices. But it's also, I think, important to make sure that your audience understands that, hey, these are the tools that we're using, or this is the type of technology we're investing in, but we're doing it in an ethical way, we're doing it in a secure way, so your information is not at risk, so they understand what the implications there could be. Then doing the integration piece of this, so putting the tools in place, and then um, pushing that knowledge out to your team, making sure that they understand how to use the tools or the technology you've invested in, effectively. Why is this so important? As from surveys, we've seen that AI is the top budget priority for marketing technology for 2024, like with 80% of the respondents saying that it is their number one priority. Uh, then just kind of working down from there, what the other things that you can see would possibly have an AI implication on it. So digital experience software will certainly be leveraging AI in 2024 and beyond. Chatbot software, almost all of it now, would likely have an AI piece to it. It could be using like a chat GPT or another model on there. CRMs have it in there now. The metaverse obviously does. And your CMS solutions, as we'll show some examples, will often have an AI piece of them. So then as we were talking about, the technology for implementation purposes, looking at your technology stack, we typically look at these things, especially from a nonprofit perspective, in four different buckets, four different channels. The first being the CMS, your content management system. So what are you using to manage your content in your organization, and even more specifically, digitally for like your website. So something like, it could be WordPress, it could be Drupal, Wix, Squarespace, HubSpot, any of those things. Then looking at your CRM, so that is your constituent relationship management platform, or customer relationship management platform, or contact relationship management, whatever you want the C to stand for. And those are tools like Salesforce, Blackbaud, HubSpot, of course, engaging networks, for nonprofit, especially more specifically for nonprofit organizations. So that's where you're getting, you're tracking all your contacts, you're keeping track of, who you're serving, who you're providing a value to, who you're getting donations from. Then the email part, that could be for email marketing, could also be for transactional email. So all the tools listed here. And then finally, donations. There's obviously volunteer services here. There's obviously membership services, but kind of for nonprofits as a whole, we look at least these 4 different platforms and understand what exists and what and of these tools that exist. Where is AI prevalent or available, or where can it be used to replace some of these different tools if that's an option as well. And then we start to build out the different workflows. So thinking about integrating those tools together, right? So it's great if we have these 4 different tools. We have a CMS and a CRM and email marketing and donations. But if they're not talking to each other, if we're not learning what someone's doing on your website that goes into your CRM, and then able to email them with a relevant message and get them to be a donor and drive them back through that whole cycle, we're missing a lot of opportunity. We're probably spending a lot of time doing things manually. So making sure these tools are connected. Um, we thought was an interesting statistic for organizations using marketing automation specifically. So you typically leveraging AI with that automation piece with their CRM are seeing a 451% increase in qualified leads. So making sure that they're doing that smart content, that smart marketing to the relevant audiences. And then by 2026, as we said, was looking at back at the investment that they're looking to make by 2026, more than 80% of enterprises will have utilized generative AI APIs in some way, according to a Gartner research poll from earlier this year. So it's all around us. It's going to be adopted. So it's really just a matter of like, how can we use it? How can we make the most of it? Some of the ways that we can do that would be doing through things like we started to talk about, using smart engagement, building something like a custom chat GPT. So either in GPT itself or with something like Zapier, providing like tailored engagement, answering questions for people. So this could be something where you might be 1 or 2 people in your nonprofit organization, but on your website, you are typically answering a lot of questions from someone, or maybe you're fielding a number of phone calls, and the questions are often the same, but you still want to keep that personal touch. So you don't want to just post like an FAQ on your website and let them go self-service and find the answer to their question. You want to be engaging with them. So you want to enhance that user experience. You can do that with like custom GPTs, custom chatbots that are AI driven based on the information that your organization has. So it's not just going out to Chat GPT's model and letting that answer for you. You're actually training these tools and telling them, okay, when someone asks this, here's an answer to that type of question. And you don't have to say, like, you don't have to come up with every single question. You can load in a lot of your content that you've answered this before. So using something like Otter.ai to transcribe webinars you've given in the past, or to summarize different presentations you've given, and then feeding that into one of these GPTs and letting that learn the answers that you would often give to these common questions. Now you can answer that person that's engaging with you on the website and get them to a point where that maybe, like, maybe let's say 10 people are on your website at the same time. They can all be having engaging questions or conversations with an AI bot until one of them gets to a point where they really need a person to pick up a phone or engage with them. And I'm sure we've all engaged with something like this across the web in the last year or so. An example of one that we've built, we did this for like the state of Delaware. We built a workforce development GPT, which would help kind of guide someone down the right career path. In this case, with students, right down the right career path for a company called for Delaware Pathways, where you could answer a series of questions from a chatbot. And this is in the GPT context, but this is actually on their website and some other tools as well, where they could answer some questions and it would guide them to the right path, the recommendation for them, without them having to go through and kind of follow a journey through the website and wait for them. This was able to increase those our interactions, but also increase conversions for this particular client. Just going to keep giving you a couple more examples here. Another way to use this would be using something like Jasper to create blog posts. So you're feeding it some information. You can build out your own templates in the tool like Jasper, where it starts to request the information that it needs from you to develop a blog post. So this could be what are the points of this, what are the calls to action you want. You talk about like the tone of voice, so you're feeding a little bit of information and it's spitting out thousands and thousands of lines of content for you that then you certainly going to have to look at it and tweak it over time, make sure it fits exactly your tone of voice. But just think of the time savings that you have by not having to be a subject matter expert on that specific topic. Another really interesting one, still in that Delaware workforce development, example was we had, I forget the total number of videos and testimonials and content that we were tasked with creating, and their budget was very small. So but they wanted a way to make it engaging. They wanted to speak to their audience. They were, like, hey, can you guys record these videos for us? And I think their first approach was actually to do a bunch of webinars. But we worked with them and they realized that was going to take them like 18 months to do. So we lose all that time. So we went in and proposed that they use Synthesia, which is a tool that allows you to create, explainer videos with lifelike AI generated like avatars, like kind of like you can see on the screen today. So we picked an avatar that resonated well with their audience. We picked the tone that resonated with that audience, and then we just started to feed it a script, and even some of that script was developed through like an AI tool um, from their teams there, and we were able to generate, I think it was 30 videos in a matter of really hours, right? But a few weeks, and then turn those around and put them back out there on their learning management system that we also built for them. As I touched on a little bit earlier, so we're still going through that different technology stack and where these tools can be used. But WordPress now and other tools like Wix and Webflow, a lot of them are using AI in their like building blocks, so to speak. So in your content management system, you can actually use different AI tools to make recommendations on where the best place for his content is on a page or what that content should be, and then really start to even develop some of this content out for you. So one of the biggest challenges we see working with nonprofits building websites is content. They have a hard time coming up with the story, so to speak, of their brand and the background and who they are. And we can certainly write the content and develop that content for you as part of our tools. But we also can use AI, or you all can use AI to optimize that content for search engines to make sure that that message is, following a storytelling fashion and using behavioral science. And it's not just here's who we are, here's what we do, and listing it out in more of like a encyclopedic format. It should be really engaging. It should be like a storytelling approach. So just another stat that we think is important, using content. So websites with blogs have 430% more index pages, which leads to better SEO. So not just thinking about your homepage, but also thinking about how you can use tools like Jasper and these CMS AI tools to generate more content for your website that's more relevant to your organization or your cause, that drives you up higher in search value. And tying this all together, looking at this, how this, as I was talking about in the beginning, is this omni-channel approach. So traditionally we looked at like the way that things would work was like, okay, come to our store, and then you just hope the person comes to your store, old-fashioned brick and mortar style. Then it went to multi-channel, so hey, same message, or messages on different platforms to the same or different people. So the store, website, or like sending emails. Now the omni-channel approach is completely integrated. So I'm getting similar messages across all different touch points, whether that's digital or in person. So that could be a billboard I see out in public. It could be a social media uh, post that I see that comes through my feed. It could be an email that I get that I signed up for on their website. It could be a push notification. But keeping that seamless so that when you're engaging, that in this example, Kyle is seeing the right message at the right time on those different mediums, and it's consistent, right? So you're reaching the right audience. Just a couple examples that I will share throughout this would be just some of the ways that this might work. So we worked with the state of Delaware's maternal and child health program to develop a campaign called BC Works for Me, so birth control works for me, which was this omni-channel approach. So we have billboards all over on the main interstates throughout Delaware, and some target communities, roadways throughout the state. We pushed this out through their social channels, but also through partner social channels. We did some paid advertising along with this. We built a website for this. We built an entire social campaign. We built an entire media campaign, but a lot of this was leveraged by AI. But what we really did with AI here, and we'll show you some further examples on this, was put that message out at the right time. So using when someone was engaged and who was engaging and who we should target, analyzing all that data through AI tools to tell us and to push that message out at that right time to say, okay, John is more likely to interact with this on this channel at this time, so we're going to serve that message to him. So instead of just spending a bunch of money on on advertising and hoping that they see it, we were really able to target those different audiences with those different topics. And these are just some other examples of, how this kind of looks across the different ecosystem. And I'll hand this over to John so we can talk even more specifically about personalization and message personalization with AI.
Cool. Thanks, Kyle. So here on the chart, behavioral science and omni-channel funnel. This chart shows how AI can help your marketing strategies. So before AI, you might have focused on increasing awareness and that susceptibility. But with AI, you can delve deeper into understanding the severity of the problem, the benefits of your solution and its creation, and the barriers you might face. All these add up to the cues to action, getting that person to do what you're looking for them to do. Now, with the help of AI, it lets you see your audience's mind and motivations even more than doing it the traditional way. So by combining behavioral sciences with AI, you can create more effective campaigns that drive real behavior change. You can identify the right cues to action and remove those barriers and guide people towards taking the desired action. It's a powerful combination that can help you achieve your goals and make a bigger impact. Kyle, I don't know if you had anything else to add to this. If not, we can keep diving deeper. Cool. So let's talk about audiences a little bit. If you don't already have personas, you can use AI when it comes to identifying the right audience and creating detailed personas. It can do this by analyzing vast amounts of data that you already have, like web traffic, donation history, social media interactions. Whatever you put in it, AI can sift through and uncover all types of hidden patterns about your supporters and potential donors. So here, let's meet Sarah. She's a 29-year-old from Sussex County, Delaware. Imagine Sarah's experience with the Delaware Department of Public Health, or DPH. We've learned that she's researched into birth control, STI prevention, and diabetes and nutrition. Based on this data, AI could personalize Sarah's interactions with the DPH, creating messaging that would tailor to her specific needs and interests, making them more relevant and engaging. To do that easily, you're going to need a good CRM, which on the next slide. A CRM, something kind of like HubSpot, which can be a powerful tool in reaching Sarah or people like her. By integrating AI into your CRM, you can create a personalized and effective user journey all the way throughout. There's a lot on here, but for example, I'll just run over a couple of them really quick. Some things that you can do with HubSpot and a CRM is segment your audience. So group individuals based on their interests, behaviors, and demographics. Personalize your messaging. So tailor content to each individual's specific needs or preferences. You can track customer interactions, so monitor those interactions like Sarah's with your organization across multiple channels. Also measure campaign effectiveness, so analyze the impact of your marketing efforts on Sarah's behavior. There's also blog management, social media, A/B testing, sales automation, analytics, and so much more. But by using a CRM like HubSpot, you can ensure that Sarah receives the right message at the right time, which is then going to increase the likelihood of her taking the desired action. Now, if we go to the next slide. So again, throughout Sarah's journey, AI has helped ensure that she receives that relevant information that's continuously adapted to her changing needs. So for example, if Sarah's diabetes worsens, AI can adjust its messaging to include information about diabetes management or diabetes management strategies and potential complications. And by considering Sarah's social detriments of health, such as transportation or access to healthcare, AI can also provide her with relevant resources and support. So for instance, AI might suggest local transportation options or connect Sarah with a community health worker who can offer her assistance with her diabetes management. It's pretty cool stuff. Now we can go over a few other ways that you can connect with your audience. So we've got smart engagement. You can also connect with people through things like learning management system or software, chatbots, mobile apps, geo mapping, case management. All of these things can benefit from the use of AI as well. Full funnel communication. So let's talk about the benefits of this using AI. Traditional brochure-based communications really cater to the top two levels. That's typical ads, print, billboard, static websites. A lot of things what you think of when you think of traditional marketing. AI allows us to dive even deeper into this. That's where we've got smart content. So this is what I've already talked about, but includes lead captures and things like landing pages, as well as that personalized content and workflows and database analysis. AI then can automate that information and use omnichannel marketing or marketing across a lot of different types and change the behavior of those marketing actions based on those smart decisions to create an even larger impact. Now let's go over a few other ways of engaging with your audience online even further. So we've got member portals. Member portals are like online communities where users can connect and collaborate and stay informed. Member portals help foster a stronger sense of community and is seen as a big benefit for joining it, via donations or however you have your memberships set up. And you can integrate AI into your member portals as well, creating a more personalized and engaging experience for them. Another great resource is an LMS. An LMS is like a central hub for your training materials and resources. It's a place where a community can access tailored courses or track their progress and stay up to date on the latest learning opportunities that you are offering. Think of it as a personalized learning experience. You can build out a learning management tool with some upfront work, but then it becomes a massive useful tool for you to use moving forward. You can also have AI help you in writing the content or even integrate it within the LMS itself. There's a lot of opportunities to really teach many members or staff quickly using an LMS. So now I'll hand it back over to Kyle, who's going to go over some of the case studies we have, including the real use of that persona Sarah, as well as some data and analytics.
Thanks, John. So I really like this one to show the beginning and end of how we were able to use AI and use analytics and tracking to not just influence behavior change of the audience, but also within the state. So similar to that birth control campaign we talked about, we also have worked on a campaign called Erase the Stigma, which is really to help drive and change the stigma of practicing safe sex, but also sexually transmitted infections. So there was a large campaign that was launched talking about a few different sexually transmitted infections that are more prevalent, I guess, in different communities that the state has funding for to help try to eradicate or to try to provide resources around. So we did, we started with the messaging. We identified that persona that John was talking about, or like an example of that persona that John was talking about, to see who we needed to reach, where they were, how we would engage with them, and then we pushed this across these different channels. At the bottom of these channels, we had we built a website that had a clinic locator on it. So we knew like the audience, so we could I say, okay, this is the average age range. So it was like high school to college age. In the state of Delaware, we could get more specific on their demographics, so we could reach them with the messaging. But then once we got them there, we want them to take some actions. We built this clinic locator. Obviously, they could just go to the nearby clinic if they knew of one. We built a clinic locator, though, to drive them there to kind of find that clinic. And we tracked not who they were, but where those searches were happening, not only from, but also to, where they were searching, like, so where they were located when they were searching, but where they were searching for locations. And we got a pretty staggering number of searches from different people in one small, I think it was 5 to 10 mile radius of the state, which the organization we were working with, didn't have that insight on the level of infections that either were there or the level of interest that were there, when they were spreading kind of money sort of evenly across the state. We were able to show them this is where, that we need not only more education, but actually more services around this, and where there's probably like an outbreak, so to speak. So we couldn't specifically say, hey, there's an outbreak of this one infection there, but we could see, based on an uptick of of searches when we were seeing, comparable messaging delivery across the state. We saw an uptick of searches in that area, that there was likely, a larger need, and they were actually able to divert funding to that community and show, positive change in that community, or in that, like, that small part of the state. So another example of this is using this to track. I think we mentioned we built a tool that tracks, with a company called Communities of Excellence, tracks different community metrics, from things like CDC, from the census, and is able to look at how changes that are implemented in those communities change outcomes, right? Whether those are health outcomes, or educational outcomes. In this example, being able to measure health or measure educational outcomes for post-secondary attainment, so getting, a graduate degree in different areas, broken it down by, either the city, the tri-state area, specific counties, or the state as a whole, and compare those, but also be able to compare efforts and funding that go into those different places, to see if that actually um, drives change. Another pretty cool example of using this, same sort of thing, with working with Chicago's 211 program. We built, like, the search functionality and tool that not only powers their search for 211 resources, but we're able to provide a generation engine now that says that we understand when searches increase in a certain area about, a certain topic. Let's just say it was like, water main breaking. So they want to know, who do they report that to, or how do they address that? We can set, if we know where they're coming from based on, like, their browser, their IP address, or whatever it might be. We can meet them when they first get there with, do you have a question about, a water main breaking, or do you have a question about crime, or whatever that might be, and make sure that we don't have to make them search first for the answer. We can actually meet them in real time, or near real time, with that answer. One that's a much larger scale is a company we worked with. It used to be called Trafficast. They were bought by a company called Iteris. But we use this to collect different traffic data. So this is like actual, car road traffic data, to be able to provide this data back to Google Maps. Like, if you see the red, yellow, and green lines on Google Maps, that information comes from Iteris or Trafficast, through services that we help develop on those platforms. But that's really, that you can take that a step further and use that for things like food banks, to understand, like, where, not only mapping those out, but also if they're doing food delivery services, so managing those different routes that they're using, for collecting and for visualizing what those routes might look like, and seeing what to plan those things out. So they can use that from a capacity standpoint internally, to pick the best time to deliver in the right neighborhoods, or the right people, and really optimize that distribution plan. Another one that we've done more recently, we've looked at the Department of Labor in the state of Delaware. There's an OSHA education program, which is like a preemptive program to provide consultations um, to businesses before they have, like, an OSHA issue or an OSHA violation. So it's actually to keep them from having an OSHA violation. So something we did here was we were able to use a system called Zoom Info to find all the different businesses, and use AI and use tools and research to identify the messaging that would resonate with that type of audience, which is a big challenge that they had before, and then feed that into an automation system. So part of the slide you can see is reaching that specific persona with sort of like a workflow here that follows them, and presents different messages at different stages of that funnel, with different decision trees the whole way down. So, like, if they take this action, do this. If they don't do that, wait a certain amount of time, send out this other message. So a way to continue to engage with them, and to try to drive that change without having to manually send those messages out, or have, like, the traditional one-on-one interactions that this organization had before. So, in starting to wrap this up, one of the outcomes of today's, I'm sure, we're going to have a number of questions that we've got some time to answer those. But we're also providing a free ebook if you just take that survey that John mentioned earlier. And this is going to be a bunch of free prompts that are available for nonprofits, specific towards nonprofits, that'll help you using tools like not just ChatGPT, like any of the prompt generated or the prompt focused tools uh, like Claude or like ChatGPT or the other ones. Um, we also have the different services provided. So I've seen some questions in the chat. Somebody asked how much these services cost, what services we provide. As we started to mention, we do one of the services is an AI action plan. I think this is a really nice, like easy entry into understanding AI and utilizing AI. This is a more immersive type of workshop where we will do a presentation with you specific to your organization. We'll have schedule a workshop with you to kind of go through the benefits, the wants and needs, stakeholder engagement, things like that on AI, and then deliver an action plan based on and some recommendations based on the outcomes of that that workshop. That's like a starter package. So this is just kind of goes over what I just mentioned. So this one starts at like $975. This would just be that starter one, but we can also scale these up if you have a larger organization that has bigger needs. We can certainly make this a more immersive and more steps as part of that workshop. And then we have ongoing monthly services. Some of like these AI maintenance services, but these are really like more digital marketing maintenance services utilizing AI as just part of that. So it's not just taking an AI only approach; it's taking like a holistic approach to your marketing communications. And then those start at $7.99 a month. So I see. I'll open this up to some questions. The first one I saw was a survey link. I will share that in this chat as well. Let's see. I just posted that, and then I will start working through. So there's a number in the chat, but I believe we'd like to see these starting in the Q&A. So if you see the Q&A option on your screen, if you can just pop that question in there, it'll help us kind of work through these faster. Someone asked, I use TechSoup. I have a subscription to GrantStation. I was trying out some AI platforms for grant writing. I looked into Grant Boost, Grant Writer AI. Seem to be the best, but not what I was looking for. Can you recommend one, or do you still recommend an AI overview like ChatGPT, Perplexity? So there's certainly a lot of grant writing platforms out there, but I do think that that it's important to understand there's not like a silver bullet for those because a lot of the grants are different. I do believe that GrantStation might have a partnership with or be working on one that would be specific to some of the grants. But the best way that we found to work on grant writing with AI would be to feed in some of a lot of your background, so more about your information, things like that. Feed it the structure that the grant is requesting, and then work through specific sections of that grant one by one, and let AI start to help generate some of that content for you. It's still going to take some manual interaction, but it'll help kind of get you closer to the finish line a little bit faster. Say we'll be able to get this video after the call. Yes, we are providing a video, the recording of this. If I'm understanding correctly, to get AI to work for you or your organization, best the one needs to use the same AI program so it learns about you. If you try a bunch, they won't have as much of a chance to learn your needs. That's a yes and no. This doesn't mean you have to kind of pigeonhole yourself to one platform, but you can train these different tools. Like if you're talking about just like generative AI, like Claude or ChatGPT, it's just like in the example that John gave earlier, where it's like pictures of dogs and it does that kind of discerning. It'll do the same sort of thing with your content and your information. So the more you can give it, that tells what you are as well as what you aren't, who you serve as well as who you don't want to serve, the better and the more specific it can get. So like if you just think about it like kind of simplified a little bit like you would yourself. So like when you're serving your community, it takes you time to understand who your community is and who your community isn't, what your community resonates, what resonates with them and what won't. So AI, whatever tool you're using, needs to do the same thing. So if you're spreading out across multiple platforms, I would just say, spread the same thing across multiple platforms and then see which one works best for your use case, or you think the one that fits best for your your tone and everything, and then you can start to work through that over time. Let's see. Can you share exactly how to use AI for SEO optimization? So it's more for one for generating content, but also then for making sure that that content is relevant. So like part of how things are optimized in search or for search engines is the search engines want to know that you are the resource of information for whatever that topic is. So the more content you have about that that is linked from other websites, or that has more supporting content in your own website that says, hey, this is information about, let's just say it's AI. This is information about AI. Here's how to use AI. Here's how other people are using AI. Here's how not to use AI. So when you have more on those topics over time, um, that's helps drive you up in search as more people are able to search for that, find you, then share that, link back to that, and then say that you are that resource. Totally new to AI. Somebody asked if we could talk about certain tools and how they're used would be beneficial. So yeah, I completely understand where a lot of these questions are. This is really meant to be like an overarching, more like services that are available, ways to use it, and maybe some case studies that would get like the your specific, like, I guess like the creative juices flowing, so to speak. Like, see how that might work for your organization or at the scale of your organization. Anything that would be more specific like that, we could certainly break off into either individualized or be like in a more course format. Somebody asked when the reporting will be available. It's usually within either by the end of the day or tomorrow. Is there an AI that could help create maps on zip code distribution of our consumers with census overlays like poverty and crime rates? There are, but you would need there's for those there's certain licenses you would need, like a GIS license or something that has the census overlays on them with those crime stats in them. So it'd either be something that would be custom built, or you'd have to kind of like pair two tools together. Is there an AI that will do architectural renderings? I think there is, and I don't remember. I've looked at a few of these actually for a client. I don't remember what they are, but I can try to follow up with you for them. Is there an AI platform for human resources management? I don't know if there's one that is for, I think there are HR platforms that have AI built into them. I would need to know more specifics on what that would be. Mhm. I think that's it in the Q&A. I'll try to work through, we got a few more minutes. I'll work through the chat if I can. Any free AI tool for social media management? I don't know of any free ones. I do know a number of the social media tools provide like AI, like mostly content generation or like best time to post, stuff like that in them. So if you have a paid tool like Buffer or Agorapulse or something like that, they would often have like an AI capability either built in or available. Um, Somebody said, my company is a unique nonprofit. We are 501(c)(3), but we not offer social services. We're a community tourist attraction. How do you see AI working for us? We've actually worked with a number of nonprofits that do that. It could be something as simple as like repurposing content that you might have as part of those attractions. So thinking about how to take those attractions and bring them digitally, bring them online. Whether that would be through um, like I'm not sure exactly how yours works, but plotting those different things on a map and making it more of like an online engaging uh tool, or it could be generating content about that space or generating recommendations. It could also be towards the example I was given about the chatbots, so like feeding it information so you can answer questions to people, whether that was before they visited or even while they were there, to make it like I mean, it would probably take a pretty significant investment at first to map all that stuff out, maybe along a different path or whatever the attraction is. But I'm sure you've seen places where you've gone and like scan this QR code to learn more. So putting those types of things in place, but they could be more automated. So when they were standing close to a specific exhibit with their cell phone or something, it could pop up information about that. So it'd be almost like an AI tour guide of sorts. We just posted the survey link in here.
While you're looking, the Family History Guide Association, you have your hand raised, and I reached out to you in the chat to ask if you had a question you'd like to ask live. You want to be unmuted, type yes in the chat. Otherwise, I'll lower your hand. And there's one question: is there any AI you suggest to stay away from?
Um, there's nothing that I would say specifically to steer away from. It's just, I think one thing I didn't get to cover a lot was like privacy, was like the privacy part of this. Like it's just being cognizant of what you're feeding into these tools. So you don't want to be putting personal information in here. You don't want to put like financial information in there, whether that's about you, your organization, or an individual, unless it's more like anonymous. So just being cognizant of that. Different, so to that point, different tools will have, like a service level agreement of some sort that will say, we do store your content, we don't store your content. Um, that type of thing. Like you want to make sure that they're, if usually the free versions will not, like they'll say, we're going to store your content for use. If you have one of the paid versions, they will only store it for a certain amount of time. It'll never go into the larger model. So just being cognizant of like what is storing that. Um, Somebody asked how we stop the model from using our info. So it's just based on that specific tool. So making sure you understand whether it will or won't store your information. Again, like the paid versions, oftentimes you can opt out of it storing your information. Some will not let you opt out. So then I wouldn't use those tools. But then one of the better ways to do it is like just to obfuscate that information. Like if you were, I wouldn't feed in like my first name, last name, social security number into like a tool, whether it says it's going to store my information or not. I would feed in like a like unique identifier that I can use, and then I'd pull that back out of there and align that back like on my own computer in our CRM or something like that to bring that, like to combine that data. So maybe it's like 1 2 3 4 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 whatever 8910 are different, unique identifiers, and they each correspond to a different person um, in like a different CRM. So you just pull the information about those unique IDs, put that into like ChatGPT, let it do whatever you want it to do, whether it's like find information or consolidate information or provide something back to you, and then it spits that information back. Then you would kind of restore that information back in your other platform by lining those things up, but keeping them separate enough so that it can't say that ID 1 2 3 4 is Kyle Barkins, ID 4 5 6 7 is John Hill, that type of thing.
Now,
Uh,
a few more questions came in the chat, and while you're reading those, a lot of people ask me for the chat transcript. We do not send those out with the video replay, but you can email me, asimons@techsoup.org for the chat. I'll pop it in the chat in just a moment. Over to you, Kyle.
um, the so tending to learn ways to my older church leaders to trust AI incorporation in the service experience. Is there any particular AI program or course that assists with helping the skeptics embrace the benefits of AI for religious organizations? I don't know of a specific program, but just familiarizing yourself. And I think we could maybe defer another webinar or something. We could provide some like those specifics, like to managing, I guess, expectations around organizational adoption. Like I said, that's like the first step when we talk about doing this with a lot of organizations, is so they understand what the implications are, and so they can communicate that to their organization specifically. So, but I don't know, of course, offhand. Looks like that was the same question twice. What do you think about self-hosting AI for your organization? If you have like the capabilities to do that, or to use one of the AI APIs, I think that's definitely a better approach. It might just not be as scalable, because you might not have like the latest version of a model, or that feed might change, or that platform might change. So it might cause an issue if you become too dependent on that. But that's the case um, with the open versions as well.
That's it.
I just shared the link again in case anybody wants it.
Correct, Ryan. You can save the chat. Some people say they aren't able to save it, but if you can't, you can email me for it. Kyle, that looks like it's it for the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, everybody. It was very, very great and great questions today. It was nice talking to you all. And we'll be following up with the recording.